thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to Cumbria. One of the most beautiful parts of the UK, and actually on the edge of a World Heritage Site. I don't know how many people knew that, so a great location for this contract. What else do I need to talk about? Mobile phones. Do you know how from outer space they can spot the Great Wall of China? Well, from here you can spot somebody on the phone. The face lights up in a kind of eerie, strange way. So if we could please at least silence the phones, and if possible, keep them away. It kind of aids speakers' concentration. And if you're a bit nervous, you kind of think you're losing the audience if there's lots of people on the phones. Have I still got you? Okay. So I'm going to quickly talk about a coffee cup. Not a particularly special high-tech piece of kit. But this is quite symbolic. There's been a piece of work done between Sellafield, the community, whereby Sellafield Limited have paid for a coffee van and fitted it out in aid of the Calderwood House homeless charity. People on the way to Sellafield in the morning stop and get coffee from this van, and then any money generated goes to help the homeless charity. The van's here today, so if you do fancy a coffee and fancy making a donation, please go. More of us listening, more of us seeking to understand rather than kind of prescribing how the world should be. There's also a change in terms of some of the exhibitions outside. We've got a bit more of an interactive feel. Lots of great stuff from all around the estate out there. So please take the time to go and look and see what's happening that's not in your patch. Because I think one of the benefits of having an estate like this is to try and share best practice, to try and learn from around the patch. So my job is to try and get us all to lunch on time. You can see that lunch is something that's very close to my heart. So we'll do our best. This morning, 3 keynote speakers. We have the NDA's chairman, Tom Smith. We have Craig Lester from Bayes and David Peaty, who's the new NDA's CEO. So very much a kind of fresh feel to things, and I hope by the end of the morning you'll get a feel for the direction of the organisation, where we head in, what are the priorities. There's then a really important slot, which is a Q&A slot. And I would urge you, I don't think there are too many shrinking violets, but I would urge you to really participate in that session, to try and get the insight from the people at the top about where we are and where we're heading. So that's a really important slot. Then this afternoon we've got what's called the big waste debate. So look forward to that. There'll be more about that later. And then again at lunchtime we've deliberately got a generous slug of time for lunch. That's not just to satisfy my waistline, but it's so that everybody gets time to go and look at the presentations and to go down to what we're calling Speaker's Corner, where there'll be some shorter bespoke presentations. Now, we're not adverse if anybody wants to kind of get up and use it like the proper Speaker's Corner and tell us about something. Please do so. Let us know and we'll find a slot and work you in. Okay, quite happy for that to happen. And then tomorrow we're on to socio-economics, but I'll talk about that again later. I think the focus for tomorrow will be, though, how we develop communities so that they're better once we're not there. Now, we can debate what better is, what it looks like, what it means, what are the perspectives on better, but kind of that's the intent. Okay? How we define that, I think it's not, again, that's a listening job. That's not for us to prescribe, that is really for us to work together on. But that intent's there from us. So, I think I've covered everything on my list. Enough from me. I think we'll get on to the real meat of the day, get cracking. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Tom Smith, who's the NDA's chairman. Tom, thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Paul, and good morning, everyone. Very good to see you. And it's a great pleasure to be here at Energus, which, as you will have seen, is a purpose-built centre for training, events and conferences. It was opened in 2009 and was the first major piece of skills and training infrastructure to be developed in this area. And it's specifically in support of our cleanup and decommissioning mission. It was to build a £20 million project. 50% of that came from the NDA, and 50% from the NDA estate, I should say, and 50% from government and European initiatives. And it's here to support the development of high-quality vocational skills. So here we have some of the most modern engineering apprenticeship workshops and training suites anywhere in the country, alongside meeting and lecture rooms. And it's also become, as you can see from today, a popular conference and event venue. So it is part of the wider NDA estate. That's the way we think of it. But it is actually now run as a separate, successful business. And it's a good example of the way our socio-economic program pump primes new investment in a local area. So that's Energus. I'm delighted to be NDA chairman. It's my first time before you in that capacity. I've been involved with the NDA as a board member since 2013, but as chairman just since March this year. The career path, there's a note or two about me in the program. The career path that led me to the NDA was quite diverse and not altogether straight and direct, but it spanned both public and private sectors. One thread that is present in much that I've done has been controversy. I've always found myself in jobs that excite strong public reaction, both pro and anti. So when I first got involved with the NDA, I thought to myself, well, what's not to like about cleaning up and making safe decades worth of nuclear waste? And I thought, oh, is this going to be finally the job where I might even do well in a popularity contest? Well, I don't think it's quite as simple as that, and it's taken me a few years to realize that. And you, of all people, know that it's not as simple as that. And I suspect that this conference is going to reinforce that message comprehensively. And actually, having courted controversy, I'm looking forward to that. We have a wide range of interested parties here today. I understand that for the first time we have local government representatives from all our sites, and I'm very pleased about that. I'm aware that engagement with your authorities has been patchy, and I hope this event will mark a turning point in our relationship. It's good to see representatives from our site stakeholder groups. As chairs and vice chairs, I know you serve your communities diligently, representing the often very different views of those who come to your meetings. We have trade union representatives here and representatives from our extensive supply chain. We have a big presence from the NDA itself and also from all our site license companies. They are the absolutely vital people who deliver the decommissioning on our behalf. NDA subsidiaries like International Nuclear Services and Radioactive Waste Management Limited are here, as are some of our affiliates established through our socio-economic programs. Our regulators are represented and officials from the UK and Scottish governments. And we have academics and NGOs who are often some of our most challenging critics. Now, I've name-checked everyone, and if I've left someone off, I do apologize, because I thought you might otherwise be sitting there thinking, who are all these people? Well, now you know, and you also know why our attendance is so impressively large. You are all very welcome, and thank you for coming. And as well as engaging with us over these 2 days, I very much hope, as Paul said, that you will take the opportunity to mingle with your fellow delegates and listen to a range of views. And I think it's probably fair to say that you won't often encounter such diversity of interest under one roof. Fairly soon after becoming chair, I had to write an introductory statement for our annual report and accounts. It wasn't easy, because the last year or so has been challenging, to put it mildly, for the NDA. A year ago, we had a panorama program that shed some difficult and uncomfortable light on some of our activities. We then had a court case that went against us, led to a need to pay damages in settlement. We have had to take also in parallel action to terminate the Magnox contract. And arising from those problems, we have the holiday inquiry, which I was formally interviewed for last week. Not an altogether comfortable experience. We expect Holiday to report in the first half of next year, so it will be with us for some months yet. It's just a word about this inquiry. It's absolutely essential that we, the NDA, cooperate fully with it so that lessons can emerge to help us and other public sector bodies improve the way we handle complex major tender exercises. We will also have a factual National Audit Office report about the Magnox contract to be published rather sooner, in fact next month. And with the National Audit Office, as night follows day, an appearance shortly afterwards will take place before the Public Accounts Committee. That's a tough one to land in David's court so soon after becoming CEO. Well, I say that assuming they're not going to ask the chairman to be witness, but you never know, you never know. So this all adds up to an exceptional level of public scrutiny. Now we have to accept that. We're a public body using public money, so that scrutiny is right. But the question perhaps to think about is what should be our attitude in the face of that public scrutiny? I spent some time over the summer rereading the judgment on the Magnox competition handed down in the High Court in July last year. It's an uncomfortable read if you're from the NDA. Buried away under the weight of legal analysis and reasoning, there are one or two quite painful observations about the NDA's culture. Notably, the judge found that we seemed unable to accept that mistakes had been made, even in the face of clear evidence to the contrary. Now, something similar emerges from a very interesting survey of stakeholders, which we've just completed and which Paul's already referred to. David will speak more about the quantitative results from that, and I've taken a look at some of the qualitative statements made by a number of stakeholders who undertook an additional telephone interview which allowed them to explain why they had answered in the way they did. Now, I'd like to thank those who were involved in that for their candour, as those views, like the High Court judgment I've just referred to, shine a light on areas where we need to change. So here are some highlights from those extra telephone interviews. First, a great insight into the link between listening and leadership. Listening involves more than just giving out information. It requires leadership. Then a comment about failure to listen and its impact on our mission. They've made fundamental mistakes by not listening to their critics, and it's slowed progress down. Then some had a view that we don't engage with them. They're just listening to themselves. And finally, we have lost trust. Due to the lack of listening and culture of the NDA, I don't trust them. Now, the individuals making these comments are more than likely here in this room today. And it's even more vital for us in the wake of our challenging year to listen to you and to act appropriately. To be frank, there's no point in the NDA putting its head in the sand. We must listen and respond to our critics and to our friends. We won't always agree, but we should try and find common ground where we can. And by doing these things, listening, responding, seeking common ground, we can, I believe, rebuild your confidence and trust in us. The stakeholder survey isn't all negative, thankfully, and there is positive feedback in areas such as recognition of the role we play overall, praise for our safety record, and the progress we're making towards clean-up. It's a given that we have to continue with those things which you perceive we're doing quite well. But, and this is my conclusion from the survey, from the court case, and from my own observation over the 4.5 years I've been involved, we must be more open and transparent with you and your organizations. I believe I'm an open and transparent person. That's something you can judge for yourselves in due course. But I want those qualities to be to the fore in the way I tackle the chairmanship, and I want to lead by example for the NDA. I see this event and the very large attendance as a positive symbol of openness, and I hope you do too. So please, enjoy the 2 days here, renew relationships and forge new ones as part of our community of interest. Have a look at the exhibition if you haven't already done so. I can recommend an engaging chat with the robot. It does work, it really does. Then the community of interest that I've referred to is one that we share in the mission we're embarked on. And I would put it in just these terms. We're dealing with the nuclear legacy to leave the country in better condition for future generations. Thanks very much for listening. Thank you.